What is going on, trainers? Drumvillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're looking at an Ultra League team. And once again, this is a team with no XLs in it. I haven't got around to building any XL Pokemon that aren't Talonflame for the Ultra League yet. So we're going to make do without, and we're going to try and find the best teams we can without using them. At least for now. Next season we might invest in a few things. We'll see how we get on. You'll have to excuse if these battles are a little bit longer than some of the ones that you're used to. This is the Ultra League, everything is super bulky. XLs haven't helped that, everything's throwing charge moves that are resisted into each other. Timeouts are very, very common in the Ultra League, so if they are quite long matchups, don't worry about it, it's just what to expect in the Ultra League really. One quick thing to note is that in these battles, Alolan Muk is running Acid Spray and Dark Pulse. But since these two sets, I've actually started running Sludge Wave instead of Acid Spray, and I'm having more success with this team. So I think this team is strong and I think it does well either way, but I actually recommend you to run Sludge Wave instead of Acid Spray on your Muk. A lot of people think they don't have to shield because they're expecting an Acid Spray, and when you hit them with that Sludge Wave and just wipe things out, it catches a lot of people off guard. So, this team consists of Alolan Muk on the lead running Poison Jab. Since Poison Jab got the buff, it's very, very powerful on Alolan Muk, which was already a powerful choice for the Ultra League. There's justifications for either Snarl or Poison Jab, but I've found a lot of success with Poison Jab for the relentless damage output that it does offer you. And in the back, we've got Cresselia with Moonblast and the legacy move Grass Knot. I think it's vital to help it deal with Swamperts if you do get stuck against them, or other water types including Politoed and Empoleon, because Alolan Muk can struggle against those. And then also we've got Gyarados to be our also hard cover to Swampert, Politoed, other water types. It also does well against Giratina and can do good damage against Cresselia with that crunch. Now there aren't very many bad leads for this team except Escavalier. If you run into an Escavalier lead, you're going to have a bad time with this team. That's just the way it is. Every team's got a particular weakness on lead. Escavalier is quite a rare lead to see at this point because Cresselias aren't very often on the lead. So it's not often you see it, but if you see it, you're probably going to have a bad time. Now all three Pokemon on my team are running PvP IVs. The Cresselia is slightly PvP IV-esque with a 7, 10, 11 since we got it from a trade. But it's not necessary for this team, but it does help to have the additional bulk. And a quick side note, less than 10% of my viewers are actually subscribed, so if you haven't already, just click that button. It's fine, it's free. You can always unsubscribe later if I annoy you. But you know, helps me out. Subscribe to the channel, get updated when I upload videos as and when I do. But with that aside, we did also get a very nice hatch this morning. Obviously the Galarian Pokemon are in eggs right now in 7Ks as part of the Ultra Unlock event, and we did actually hatch a 100% IV Galarian Stunfisk, which we've been going very hard for. So we're looking forward to maxing that out and utilising it in the Ultra League. I'm sorry to those that do not like or want XL Pokemon, but sometimes we're going to have to go hard meta, so you might see a video or two utilising it next season. Okay, so let's jump into some matchups, and our first lead was a Giratina Altered, and this is a very, very good lead for Alolan Muk, especially if they're running Shadow Claw. If they're running Dragon Breath, it's actually not that ideal, because without the Snarls and the slightly spammier nature of the Dark Pulses, you're going to struggle to keep up with that raw damage output. But against the Shadow Claw variant, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on with these Dark Pulses. I don't recommend you bait with Acid Spray, because if they don't shield it, it's not worth it. You're going to fall behind in energy and damage pretty quickly. But they choose to swap out to an Empoleon, and we're just going to throw a Dark Pulse at this thing, get some nice chip damage before we swap, I believe, into Cresselia. Yep, now we can just throw Grass Knots at this. I think generally it's 3 Grass Knots to KO an Empoleon from a Cresselia, but since we've hit it with a Dark Pulse, we should just need 2, which means we shouldn't have to worry about shielding a Hydro Cannon, because if someone swaps in an Empoleon straight away, I do still recommend you bring in Cresselia, but if you don't swap in fast enough and you can't keep up with the Grass Knots, you might have to commit a shield first, which isn't super ideal. But here, because they've already committed a shield on their Giratina, so we don't mind going down to level shields just to guarantee that we get this Empoleon out of here and keep switch advantage. Because also this Giratina's got to dump energy into Cresselia to take it out, because if we get to a Moonblast, it's also going to hit the Giratina pretty hard, and now they swap out into a Togekiss, and we absolutely dropped the ball. We absolutely shit the bed here. Excuse my language, but we should have brought in Muk. Almost certainly should have brought in Muk. But there is an argument to be made for this tactic, in that we can bring in Gyarados, do some chip damage, and then we can farm down completely with Muk and get to Dark Pulses against Giratina, but the charm's going to add up. We're very, very low at this point. I don't think this is going to work out for us. This might be an L in the first game. Yep, Giratina's still got a shield, and even if we get a Moonblast on Cresselia, which we're very close to, which we will get, so this is going to be low, but it's not going to be enough to take it out. It hits Giratina for roughly 45% of its health, so it's not going to be enough. We take an L. GG. We absolutely should have brought Muk in first to the Togekiss and then tried to finish it off with Gyarados, because Gyarados can put a little bit more work in against the Giratina without needing energy, thanks to the Dragon Breath. So, second matchup. Defense Deoxys lead is a good lead for Alolan Muk no matter what fast move you're running on it. The Dark Pulses just hit too hard, and Deoxys' attack is too low for the neutral counters to do that much work. They swap out into Umbreon, and this is again a good matchup for Alolan Muk because the poison jabs are neutral. It's even better if you've got Sludge Wave, but what we decide to do in this matchup is throw the Acid Spray, debuff the Umbreon, and then bring in our Gyarados, because Gyarados doesn't want to see the charge moves from Defense Deoxys, to be honest, so we decide, well, let's bring it in here, use it against the Umbreon, take Switch advantage and see what they decide to do. Realistically as well, Cresselia does well against Defense Deoxys. The Moonblasts are just quite decent neutral damage, whereas because the counters are resisted, Deoxys doesn't get that kind of relentless ticking down of your health that it does in a lot of matchups, where its bulk really helps it out. And also, we've got the energy, we can throw a Crunch at this Defense Deoxys. This is going to do decent damage, or get a shield, hits it for a good chunk, and we're going to get an Aqua Tail off because we built up a lot of energy and they might not have been expecting this. We don't get a shield, unfortunately, but now we could probably farm down this Deoxys with Muk. We might have to shield the move if we wanted to get a farm down, actually, to be honest, because I think they're going to get two. Is it Rock Slides off on us here, or is it a Thunderbolt? It's a Rock Slide. It does a decent little chunk, but we decided to throw this Acid Spray straight away, and maybe the Dark Pulse is the better choice, yeah, because they don't actually shield that. They swap out to a Scrafty, and this is a little scary. We should have swapped to Cresselia straight away, because here the Scrafty is going to throw a Power-Up Punch, which we felt obliged to shield to save the energy, which is dumb, to be honest. It's a dumb call. We should have swapped straight to Cresselia, because then the Scrafty has to go for Foul Plays, which will be doing slightly less damage than if it had not already thrown a Power-Up Punch. So I think we thought we could get a move off on the Scrafty from the Muk before we swapped out, but that was a poor call from us. Swap straight out into Cresselia. Cresselia can go toe-to-toe with Scrafty. The Foul Plays are scary, of course they are, but you can match it because the Moonblast is going to annihilate Scrafty because it's double super effective. Because we were able to bait a shield with the Grass Knot, we're able to get to this Moonblast before they get to another Foul Play, take them out, and that should secure our win. Just assuming the Deoxys doesn't have enough energy to throw a last move at Muk, we're going to swap out, preempt that, throw another Acid Spray to take it out. That's not Shade, it's just a move we got to, and that's going to be a good game. So a bit of a mistake by staying in with the Muk long enough against the Scrafty for them to throw a Power-Up Punch and then burning a shield, but it still managed to work out by getting that shield bait off, because Cresselia is just so good. And speaking of Cresselia, it is another good lead for Alolan Muk, because again the Dark Pulses just hit so hard. They swap out to a Swampert and they're going to eat a Dark Pulse for it. Don't know what they thought they were going to catch there, but we don't actually mind throwing that, because then with that extra damage we can possibly farm this Swampert down with this Gyarados. It takes 3 Hydro Cannons to KO a Gyarados from a Swampert, and it's the same for a Shadow Swampert actually, which is quite nice. Yeah, I think the third one would take us out. I think, oh, not quite. They don't quite get to the third one, which is really nice. Now we've got a lot of energy, and they bring in a Registeel. And Gyarados does very well against Registeel because it resists the Flash Cannon and the Focus Blast, but at this point we're so low that it will take us out with one move. They try and snipe us down. We've got too much energy to lose to getting sniped down, and now that we've seen that they've got a Registeel in the back, we're going to bring in our Cresselia to meet theirs. It's like, yes, we have Alolan Muk and we could lock Alolan Muk onto this Cresselia, but we can do more work on the Registeel with Muk than we can with Cresselia. Both of them can put in a good amount of work against a Registeel, but we feel we're better off spending the Cresselia here because we don't have to shield it. We're not concerned about that. We can just eat Moonblasts all day. Nobody cares. We're just going to chip this thing down, and then we'll bring in Gyarados with it. It's almost got 2 Aqua Tails still, I think. The Muk's got a little bit of energy and still a lot of health, so we can just put a lot of work in on this Registeel. We're looking very good in this matchup at this point. We decide here to swap into Muk, and they swap out into the Registeel. I think we're just going to take this move. It can survive anything, Flash Cannon or Focus Blast. It takes 2 regardless to KO an Alolan Muk. It takes 2 Focus Blasts, it takes 2 Flash Cannons, so we don't mind. They don't have to worry about baiting. We don't have to worry about getting shield baited or anything like that. I think we'll let this go now and save our shield for the Gyarados. Yeah, we've got 2 Aqua Tails already at this point, and with that shield, the Dragon Breath is going to put a lot of work in. It's like if you remember Altaria and Registeel's matchups in the Great League, even though Dragon Breath resisted, Altaria can win the 2 shield because the Dragon Breath does so much work. Obviously Registeel has a lot more health in Ultra League than it has in the Great League, but still, that Dragon Breath damage, do not underestimate it in drawn out matchups. We're both swapping all over the place here. We're going to get a Moonblast off first on their Cresselia, almost take it out. The clock's coming up, which is a huge thing. This might be a timeout win if we've got more health than they do. We're going to get farming down. We're just going to be able to get this Grass Knot and take out the Cresselia, and then it doesn't matter because we're going to have 2 Pokemon left. They've only got 1, which is the Registeel, so we win by default. GG. That would have been a very, very close game though, as that got to its conclusion. But like I said, timeout wins are a very practical thing to take advantage of in the Ultra League. So into the next matchup, and if you're not sold yet on Alolan Muk being a great lead, it's also a good lead against Alolan Ninetales. With Snarl, it can struggle a little more against Alolan Ninetales because you're depending purely on your Sludge Wave or Gunk Shot damage, but with Poison Jab you can chip him down so fast. So they swap out to an Obstagoon, and we're going to bring in Gyarados. Just because we're going to be taking neutral from these Night Slashers, we can put a lot of pressure on. And again, Gyarados is the thing that wants to see Alolan Ninetales the least. Both Cresselia and Muk do pretty well against Ninetales, so we're just going to spend the Gyarados. Use it up, get it out of here. Get rid of this Obstagoon. We take switch advantage in the Zero Shield, which is really nice. If they get the boost on Obstagoon, it's a little scarier, but you just have to deal with that if and when it happens. It's just bad luck if it does. And again, this is a good spot to have Sludge Wave because they're not well, they do shield, but there's not a lot of pressure on them to shield either if they expect an Acid Spray. But now the Poison Jabs are going to be doing good damage. Because they're shielded, we're happy to commit one in as well. And now this Acid Spray, even though Acid Spray is a very weak move, this is going to hit them pretty hard. It will finish them off, that's nice. They've got a Giratina in the back with Shadow Claw, so they're going to struggle to take us out. We can survive this Dragon Claw and still get to a Dark Pulse, so we're going to do that. We're going to no shield, and then we're going to throw this and go straight to Cresselia. Because although Shadow Claw Giratina does well against Cresselia, they've got a shield, and we can definitely survive long enough to get to 2 Moonblasts and guarantee taking this thing out and taking the win. Now, these again, as I've said, are very long drawn out matchups. These are very spammy Pokemon, they're very bulky Pokemon, but that's just the Ultra League. You've just got to accept that most of your matches are going to take, on average, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. Like, you're going to be running the clock out in a lot of games, especially if you bring in these bulkier Pokemon. At least they surrender there and save us 20 seconds. Good game to the opponent. So there are a lot of Alolan Ninetales and Giratina leads in the Ultra League. And if you want something that beats them both, look no further than Alolan Muk. It's a really underrated lead. Now a lead that's not so good is Machamp, especially Shadow Machamp. So what I recommend you do is throw 5... Now here we swap straight out to Gyarados and pressure them to swap. What I would recommend that you do is throw 5 Poison Jabs and then swap to Gyarados, specifically to try and catch a Cross Chop. The Shadow Machamp's probably not going to hang around and wait to throw the Cross Chop, so you might as well try and catch it. And if they don't throw the Cross Chop and then they throw a Rock Slide, you might as well then shield on your Gyarados, because you'd be shielding the Cross Chop on your Alolan Muk anyway. It just means that you can get a nice bit of damage off on the Machamp with your Alolan Muk with the poison jabs before you swap out and potentially put their energy to waste. In this matchup we got met with a Venusaur, which gave us a nice farm down with the Muk, and here we can throw, again if this was a Sludge Wave this would have been much better. We could have just one-shotted them, bang, they'd have been out of here. But landing the poison jab I guess is not too bad. We're not going to shield this up, we're going to put it all on Cresselia, and there's a Swampert in back. So actually there's a glimmer of hope in this match, but what we have to do, there's a buttload of lag there which is not good. You want to shield first, because it's probably an Earthquake. Yeah, a lot of Swamperts love to throw Earthquakes straight away for the higher damage out of the gate. So I do recommend if you get a Swampert against your Cresselia and they build up to an Earthquake, they're probably throwing it. And when it's 2 shields apiece, shielding that Earthquake makes a big difference in how the match plays out in the long run. Now we're going to get to this next Grass Knot, see if is this Swampert going to shield. They don't, which is really nice for us. Oh, we already got both shields out of them. What am I talking about? We put the pressure on with that Grass Knot. We're building up to the Moonblast, we don't need to. Grass Knot does more than enough at this range to take out the Machamp. We shield in case it's a payback, just in case that would have been really cheap if we'd have got smashed to pieces by a payback that late, but we're able to take that win. Good game. So we're able to take a 4-1 in the first set, which is really nice, can't ever complain with a 4-1, and there was potential. We were in a bad position in the first game, but there was a bit more potential if we would have swapped into that Muk against the Togekiss instead of the Gyarados, maybe. But either way, 4-1, it's all good. We jump up quite a few points, and we're going to jump into the second set. These matchups were taken just before Go Battle Night, but we did use this team, like I said, with Sludge Wave as well since, and it is very strong. Now, bad leads, Galarian Stunfisk, you hate to see it, especially a Poison Jab, Alolan Muk. You're doing basically nothing. So we're going to swap out to Cresselia. Galarian Stunfisk can put a lot of work in against everything on this team, but having Grass Knot on Cresselia to hit it for neutral damage is pretty nice. And they're going to swap out into a Cresselia, but not before we've thrown a charge move and they've thrown a charge move. So our switch timers are out of sync by almost 30 seconds. So what's going to happen here is we're going to build up energy, we let this Cresselia throw at us, and then we're going to swap back into Muk the second that we can and bank this energy, because this Cresselia is stuck in here with us for the next 20-25 seconds, obviously sped up. So we're going to eat this Moonblast because we can eat all the Moonblast we want. It's the Earthquake from Galarian Stunfisk we're worried about. Get to this Dark Pulse, throw it against the Cresselia, this will do good damage. If it goes unshielded, they do shield. Now the Stunfisk comes back in, and again we're not going to shield the Muk. We get to another Dark Pulse. This isn't going to do, it does again a reasonable chunk, about the same as a Grass Knot from Cresselia does. And if they want to try and bait with a Rock Slide and not take us out, that's fine by me. They do throw the Earthquake, that's no stress. We got a lot of energy on our Cresselia now that we built up against their Cresselia, and now we can throw almost 2 Grass Knots back to back, and that will threaten to take out this Stunfisk, which is mad. A Stunfisk lead and a Cresselia counter swap against a Muk lead and a Cresselia counter swap, and we're coming out of this looking pretty good. We got a shield out of the Stunfisk, so we're now up a shield, and we're still going to be able to take this, unless this is an Earthquake, which I don't, this is probably a Rock Slide, I think. Yep, just a Rock Slide, not going to take us out. We throw the Grass Knot, which is a little unfortunate. We could have actually swapped to the Gyarados there and probably farmed them down, but no worries, we get it out of there. And now the Cresselia comes back in, and they've got quite a bit of energy. So we're just gonna let that go through, see what they've got in the back. They've got a Shadow Politoed. Now, unless this Politoed's running Blizzard, it can't one-shot us. If it's got Blizzard, then we'll find out the hard way, and I will accept my fate if I want to get Blizzarded by a Shadow Politoed for the meme. We'll see what happens. Just a Weather Ball, no big stress, but these Weather Balls are spammy, and they're going to add up. Same with the Hydro Cannon from Swampert. They don't feel threatening, but once you've had a couple of them, they're not particularly nice to deal with. We're going to let this go down because the Politoed... No, we're not. Okay, we're going to show this up. I don't know what I'm thinking. I think we're thinking we can farm down. We farm down. I knew what I was doing in the moment. We can throw a Crunch against this Cresselia. This is going to get it nice and low. It's not quite going to be enough to take them out. Switch time is coming up. We swap, and timer runs out. That Cresselia might have been able to throw 2 charge moves and take both our Pokemon out. But with the timer coming up, we decided to try and swap to maybe catch a Grass Knot. Maybe it wouldn't have taken us out. Maybe we'd have won for having 2 Pokemon. Worth a try. So, Obstagoon lead. Obstacoon is not an ideal lead for Alolan Muk generally. Again, I stand by that you should throw 5 poison jabs, maybe throw more, maybe throw 10. A lot of Obstacoons build up to 2 cross chops before they throw one, I'm not particularly sure why, but it's worth trying to catch one on your Gyarados before you swap. And I do think it is worth swapping into your Gyarados because Muk with Poison Jab does alright, it's just over time, with all your shields up and stuff, you're going to lose in the long run. So you might as well try and swap out, pressure and see what they want to do. Alright, let's get this back up to speed on this battle recording. Yep, back up to our 1.6. Awesome, right. So Obstacoon's going to take the Aqua Tail, we can take another Night Slash. And I don't know how much energy they've got, I've not been paying massive amounts of attention. They've got an Armored Mewtwo in the back, which is great because they swapped in so late. Yeah, they're going to be able to farm my Gyarados down a little bit, but we can bring in either Cresselia or Muk. Both do pretty well against Armored Mewtwo. We're going to bring in Cresselia just so we don't have to worry about a potential Dynamic Punch or Rock Slides chipping away. Armored Mewtwo, they generally run Dynamic Punch to help deal with Steel types, which means they get walled by Cresselia. And the fact that this Armored Mewtwo is throwing Side Strikes means they probably are running Dynamic Punch as well. And Side Strike's a very, very good move. They do add up over time. We are going to throw this Grass Knot just before they get to another move. It's always good to keep count of your opponent's moves and throw at the last second before they get to one to maximise your energy if they do let it go through. Now we've got enough to throw another Grass Knot straight away at the Obstacle and take that out if they don't shield. They do shield, which means they might be weak to Cresselia in the back. I'd say this is worth shielding, swapping to Muk, seeing what they want to do. And they've got a Sylveon, which I guess, sure, we're just going to Acid Spray it, lower that defense. I guess they were worried about a potential Sludge Wave, although we didn't have the energy. But now our Poison Jabs are going to absolutely shred into this thing. We're going to get to another Acid Spray. It's going to hit reasonably. And look at the work there. Alolan Muk absolutely destroying that Sylveon. And now we can just get to a Grass Knot and take out the Obstagoon. We could survive probably this Night Slash anyway, but why gamble? We're just going to shield it up and then take the win. That's going to be a good game. The nice thing about a Gyarados save swap is a lot of opponents are caught off guard by it. They don't often know what to do. They have to wait and assess Dragon Breath versus Waterfall, what's best to swap into on their team against it. And by that point, you've built up some energy, you've done some damage, and that adds up in the long run for the rest of the game. Now, next matchup, Clefable, brilliant lead. Any Charmer lead is fantastic to see with this team because you really don't want to see fairies against your Gyarados. So being able to put work in here with the Muk is nice. A lot of Charmers don't shield, and having Sludge Wave means you build up to it, you throw, because a surprising amount of them stay in, and here you have to shield or they will take you out if it's a Meteor Mash. And imagine that, imagine having to go down a shield against a Charmer. If you've got Sludge Wave, you build up to it, you throw it. If they shield, that's brilliant, you can just shield their move and you're still going to win the matchup. So I still do think Sludge Wave is the better move, but Acid Spray does put good work in and does have its uses. They bring in a Giratina, and we're just going to come in with Cresselia. Maybe we should have come in with Gyarados, but we've got a feeling if they've led Clefable and then they've got a Giratina coming in second, they've probably got a Swampert in the back to deal with Steel types, because this is a Shadow Claw Giratina, so it's obviously there to help deal with Steel types as well. It's probably their safe swap, and then they've probably got Swampert in the back. And both Cresselia and Gyarados do very well against Swamperts, but we feel we're better off sticking with Gyarados for the end. But it's actually an Empoleon. Wait, what am I talking about? We already saw this Empoleon. We swapped into it aggressively with our Cresselia. But that's fine, actually. Maybe we should have stayed in with the Muk against the Empoleon just to get Cresselia locked on against it, because Gyarados does okay, apart from when you eat a Blizzard. Good lord, we get annihilated by that. We had this game in the bag. If we'd have shielded that Blizzard, we'd have been fine. We'd have been completely fine to sweep this game with Gyarados. But we let a Blizzard through, absolutely smashes us to pieces. Poor Gyarados did not know what was coming, and we're going to take an L. Just because sometimes you got to do the Hail Mary shot, and kudos to them for throwing it, and bad choice by me not to shield it. Good game to them, can't even be mad about that. A couple of big mistakes there then, staying with the Muk against Empoleon to lock Cresselia onto it, and shield when the Empoleon has built up to a potential blizzard. Okay, so here's a pretty spicy XL pick for the Ultra League, and that's Ferrothorn. It's not many people's first priority to build if you're thinking about an XL Pokemon for the Ultra League, but Ferrothorn is really strong and has really decent coverage. As you can see, it's resisting the poison jabs from Muk, and yet this is the best matchup on our team. Like, it would wall Cresselia because the Grass Knot's double resisted and the Moonblast is single resisted, and so is Psycho Cut. And Gyarados, it'd be resisting the Dragon Breath and the Aqua Tail, so we'd have to go for Crunches, and those Power Whips would be shredding through us. So we're kind of glad to see it against Alolan Muk, but honestly, we're just not happy to see it at all. And the good news is you're not going to see many of them in the Ultra League, but they are there, and they will be a problem for this team. And if you've got to get anything on it, put Muk on it. And if Muk gets taken out, then Cresselia. Gyarados is probably the worst matchup against a Ferrothorn. And since they bring in Swampert afterwards, and we've got two good answers to Swampert, both Gyarados and Cresselia do very well against Swampert, we decide rather than getting farmed, we'll swap straight out to Cresselia, pressure them, and they do have a Charmer, which means we can put some work on this Aromatisse, whatever the hell this thing's name is. Muk can put some work in if Cresselia goes down. I'm assuming they'll get to a charge move and we've got no shields, so we're probably going to get taken out. Yeah, so we're going to throw here, and Muk should be able to just hit it a couple of times with a couple of poison jabs and just finish this thing off, which is nice because that Aromatisse would absolutely wall our Gyarados otherwise. And now we can just Dragon Breath down, whether we get to 2 Aqua Tails or Dragon Breath it down, whichever comes first, because they've still got a shield. And this Swampert does have energy, but not enough, so they're going to surrender there, and that's going to be a good game. That is one thing to remember, is that if you end up with Gyarados in the back against a Charmer specifically, you're going to have a bad time. Same with any Dragon Breath user. Okay, so let's take a look at Giratina altered when it's running Dragon Breath. I said earlier that this is a bad matchup generally for the Muk. Both Gyarados and Cresselia do better than Muk against a Dragon Breath Giratina. The Giratina does get to a Dragon Claw before you get to this Dark Pulse, so the Giratina is holding off on throwing. We're throwing now, but if you get that Dark Pulse off, and they haven't thrown yet, I say swap to Cresselia. Get that Dark Pulse off and swap to Cresselia. If they haven't thrown yet, that's fine. They're going to bring in an Empoleon, which isn't the best thing for them. Maybe they're thinking we might not have Grass Knot, but we do. Maybe they've got a Swampert back there. Who knows? But we're gonna throw Grass Knots, and we can put a lot of pressure on this Empoleon. With the Grass Knots, we're ahead on energy, which means we can get to these faster than they're going to get to the Hydro Cannons. I do think this is probably worth shielding. Yeah, they built up a fair bit of energy, and I would say that this warrants a shield. We're going to build up a nice bit of energy there and throw again. So either they're going to lose switch, or they're going to have to match our shields. They are going to shield, which is nice. I think we'll let this go now, yeah. The Empoleon's pretty low, and they've thrown their energy. We can get to one more Grass Knot, so either they've got to go down 2 shields, or they're going to lose switch, which is fine for me. They're going to go down 2 shields, and we might pressure get into it. No, we're not going to quite get to another one. I'm going to bring in Gyarados, expecting them to blindly throw a Hydro Cannon, because Gyarados can put in good work against Giratina, and if not, with shields down, Muk can finish off the Giratina anyway. And they've got their own Alolan Muk in the back. This is no big problem. We can just throw Aqua Tails. We're going to swap into our own Muk, see if they want to swap back into their Giratina. And I think we're going to let this go. We don't feel too much pressure from this charge move. We feel like Gyarados is our win condition here. So we're going to build up. And I think we're going to throw our own Dark Pulse. We overcharge. This is scary. This is a Dark Pulse that's going to take us out. It's an Acid Spray. That's very clutch to not shield that. That could have taken us out. We're here, we're going to get to this move. Get them very, very low. And now we're going to simultaneously, that's beautiful, simultaneous KO, so Gyarados doesn't have to worry about shielding anything, from the Muk. Now we can safely shield this up, and then probably farm down the Giratina. If we get to an Aqua Tail first, I think it's worth throwing. They try to catch on their Empoleon, and now we're at a crunch, so we can just throw that. We'll win CMP tie, the opponent realises, and quits. Good game. Another cheeky 4-1 set there, back to back with this team. And like I said, since recording these battles, I've actually had more success with this team running Sludge Wave instead of Acid Spray. I'm currently up around the 2900 elo range, close to being back up in Legend rank, which is very nice to hit in the Ultra League without any XLs. If you're struggling for XL Pokemon and you have these Pokemon, these legacy Pokemon lying around, I do recommend you give them a try. So that's it for my commentary on this team. I will leave you guys with this last matchup from the following set, which was against a Registeel lead, and you can see how we play around that. Let me know how you guys are getting on in these last few days of Season 8. Are you guys pushing to hit Legend, or a last target that you're just aiming for, hoping to reach for the end of the season? Have you hit Legend and you're taking it easy like I am and experimenting with some other things? Let me know down below. And if you're not subscribed already, hit that button. Like I say, it's free. We're on the road to 1000 now. Join the squad of absolute legends that have already subscribed. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.